All right, so I'm back with Lionel today, and we're going to start talking a little bit about the thought shaping that's going on in our country today. What are some of the things that stand out to you?
Well, I think we underestimate the power of words, particularly, as you said earlier, repetitious words. I think we underestimate the power of words. What we hear goes into our hard drive of our mind, our recording system, and words are extremely powerful. And even bad words, repeated enough, can come into our meaning, can come into our mind and mean something. So we record right or wrong at the same level. It's recorded in our minds, but here's what our minds do. It's when we keep replaying, like say, we used to hear about suppressed memory all the time. I almost crack up laughing when I hear that, because there's no such thing as repressed memory. If you have something bad that happened to you, and particularly if it happened to you through words, you're never going to forget it, because that's what you keep repeating. In other words, your random access memory in your mind is going to play those stories back over and over and over and over again. So if we're fed lies enough by our leaders, we have a hard time distinguishing that in reality. In other words, just because it's real, just because it's said, doesn't necessarily make it real or make it true or make it right.
If you operate in an environment like that, how do you tend to react? What's your go-to, Lionel, when you're confused? So you receive a message and you don't believe that it's necessarily the truth. How do you react?
The only thing you can do is question everything, research, study, go to your best sources in life, the places you've trusted before. You have to rely on your education. You have to rely on your self motivation education. You have to learn. You have to study. You have to grow.
What do we share, though? Typically Americans share a fundamental belief in Jesus Christ. And what are the teachings that we should sometimes rely on from our foundations? Some of our foundational beliefs. How can they help us right here?
I wish the percentage was higher than you just mentioned. I really do. But the thing, it's about righteousness. It's about being fair to one another, loving one another, caring about one another. It's about doing the right thing for the right reason at the right time. And I heard that one time from Dr. Laura Schlesinger, a Jewish lady used to be on the radio years ago. And I like that. And it's what I try to teach her, to do the right thing, the best with your education, knowledge, do the right thing for the right reason and at the right time. You can do the right thing at the wrong time and not get the effects you want. So to me, the foundation of Christianity, what Christ was trying to tell us is take care of one another, take care of my planet, take care of my animals, take care of love. Make sure that love is at the focus of all your decisions. All your decisions based upon the love of God. That's it. To me, it's about question everything, but do it through love.
So if we could return back to our foundations, our foundation. I like to say that I learned, my foundations were set when I was 7 and 8 years old in the basement of the Grable Alliance Church in Grable, Wyoming. I would go down there, and the church mothers would talk to me about the Golden Rule and the parable of the Good Samaritan. So if we applied those rules to the messages that we receive that are trying to shape our conversations today, do you think we would be in a better place right now?
Oh, absolutely. Positive would be a better place. So what we got to do is we got to make sure we're saying the right thing for the right reason at the right time to our families, to our youth, to who are growing up, to the children that we're raising, the children that we help raising, and that includes our children, our grandchildren, and whatever. But we have to teach them as much good and as much truth as much about love before they're 16 years old.
I think we could probably all come up with several messages that have been repeated over and over the past few years to shape our minds, to shape our beliefs. So, and if we looked at those, how could we look at those messages in a kind of a rigid framework? For example, could we look at those messages? Is this message designed to divide me one from another? Is this message designed to build something? Could we do something like that within the bounds? What do you think?
Yeah, Jim, I wasn't sure where we were going with that, but I can tell you one thing for sure. I think that the powers to be, and they're not necessarily good powers, I think the powers to be spend more time trying to divide us than anything else.
Why would they try to divide us?
Even my younger sons told us that. It's because it distracts us from what they're doing.
And why would they want to distract us and divide us?
Because they're not necessarily going to do the things that are right.
They're not necessarily going to do the things that are right, and they're doing it to control us.
Absolutely.
And
it is definitely about power and control.
So if you were to come to that conclusion, like I think we have, if it's about control, and we are easier or more difficult to control when we are at each other, when we're divided.
Oh, we're much easier to control. If we're fighting each other, we're much easier to control.
I like to use the Wizard of Oz. Yeah. The Wizard of Oz. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
That's right.
And it's amazing, when you really start to drill down on what's going on. The realization that our government actually has a section of it that is designed to shape how we think as Americans. That's its whole entire purpose, is to drive the narrative that current administration, whoever happens to be in power, would like us to have. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. It doesn't matter. They're all going to try to shape the narrative that you and I believe in. And how do we combat that? Any ideas?
Yeah, only one. Because first of all, because my fundamental belief is we don't need a Democratic and Republican Party. If we did, I want to have 5 parties. I don't want to have Democratic and Republican. I want 5 of them, because I want the people of America to be able to see what is really best for America. Now, they all might grow to be the 5 same way. I don't know how that would work, but I do know one thing. I read a book a long time ago, and it was sort of on that subject matter, and it was called In Search of Excellence. And that book was written back in the 70s, back to our original thought there. There's no doubt about it that we are being controlled and manipulated, so that the powers that be can do what they want to do cloaked, so that they can do most of what they want to do without us being, I don't want to say consciously aware of it, but they don't want us to be unconsciously aware of what they're doing.
Of right and wrong. We should be able to tell the difference between right and wrong. And when we have a government that's willing to shape a narrative that confuses us, and that's unfortunate that we have a system like that. I'm gonna pause here for a minute as we catch our breath. I'm talking with Lionel Adams here in Casper, Wyoming at City Brew Coffee.